You know the story of Faust, right? The scholar sells his soul to the devil for unlimited knowledge and power. It's a classic. But what if that deal wasn't for magic? What if it was retooled for the age of iron and steam? Well, today, we're diving into an incredible 19th century manuscript that does exactly that. It forges a new Faustian tragedy, not out of sorcery, but out of machinery, bureaucracy, and the absolutely terrifying ambition of progress. And that, right there, is the central question that flips the entire myth on its head. This text that we're digging into, this so-called Prussian Faust, doesn't have a pact for arcane secrets. Nope. It's a deal for the keys to the universe's mechanics. And it becomes this incredibly sharp lens to critique its own time, and, you gotta wonder, maybe ours too. So to really get how this manuscript pulls it off, we need to understand this key idea: structural synthesis. Think of it like this. The author takes the classic chassis, the simple cautionary ghost story of the original 1587 Faust, and bolts on the massive philosophical engine of Goethe's masterpiece. The result is a whole new machine for storytelling, one that's specifically designed to explore the anxieties of a world being totally remade by industry. Okay, so the drama kicks off in a way that feels, well, familiar and yet completely alien at the same time. It opens with a prologue in the aether, and it's built to be the total tonal and theological opposite of Goethe's warm, famous prologue in heaven. This is our first big look at that structural synthesis in action. And I mean, the contrast is just staggering. You can forget all about Goethe's sunny spheres and angels singing about creation. This heaven is the crystal chancery, a terrifying bureaucracy of living fire and ice. This isn't a place of grace and light. It's a celestial military headquarters. It's cold, it's efficient, and it is seriously imposing. And the characters here totally reflect that cold corporate shift. The Lord, he's not the chatty, philosophical guy from Goethe's version. Not at all. He's a silent, awesome power that's literally hidden behind lightning. The real debate, the actual negotiation, happens between his top guys. Metatron, who's basically the prime minister or chancellor of this whole divine government, and Samyaza, who's the leader of the Watchers and serves as humanity's prosecutor. And here's where the wager itself just fundamentally changes. This isn't about whether one good man can be tempted by the devil. No, this is what the text calls a trial of corruption. Samyaza's whole argument is that humanity is fundamentally flawed, that our divine spark just doesn't work with our fragile clay bodies. He argues that if you give us technology, if you expose us to the gears of the universe, it's not going to lift us up. It's going to break us, and it will inevitably lead to a world without God, run by pure tyranny. So with that cosmic trial set up, Part 1 shows us how it all plays out on a personal level. We zoom in from the cosmic scale down to the individual, focusing on our Faust figure. And his reasons for making a deal are incredibly modern. This whole section basically rebuilds the structure of Goethe's Part 1, but it swaps out all that scholarly angst for scientific frustration. So, meet Hinnock. He's not some guy moping in a study full of dusty old magic books. He's a brilliant ethical scientist in the heart of industrial Berlin. And his despair, it comes from the hard, physical limits of what science can do. He's not trying to escape sin, he's trying to escape biology itself. So when he signs his pact in blood with the fallen watcher Azazel, it's not for a wild life of pleasure and power. It is a pact for progress. His goal is completely technocratic. He wants the keys to the stars so he can overcome our human fragility. In his mind, he's doing it to save the entire human race from itself. It's a deal he makes from a place he sees as noble. Of course, there's a cost to that kind of ambition, and we see it in the Sophia tragedy. She's the story's innocent Gretchen figure, but her downfall isn't a simple story of seduction. Her destruction comes from revelation. She is literally exposed to the alien light of Hannah Huck's forbidden science, and she just can't handle it. Her death is the first terrible consequence, a small-scale preview of the global catastrophe his work is about to unleash. From that very personal tragedy, the story just explodes outward in Part 2. And again, it's borrowing Goethe's structure, but using it for a totally new purpose. The scale shifts from the personal to the political, and it details the rise of what the manuscript calls a Dark Prussia, a whole empire built on Hinnock's forbidden tech. Now, Hinnock doesn't go on a tour of fancy royal courts like Goethe's Faust did. Oh no. He gets taken on a tour of the cosmos itself, to the storehouses of the winds and the foundries of the stars. But what he finds out there isn't some divine harmony. He discovers that the entire universe is just a massive, mechanical, dissonant machine. And in that, he understands the sheer terror of the cosmos.
And back on Earth, this cosmic knowledge gives rise to the Nephilim. But these aren't the giants from ancient myths. In this story, they are a powerful allegory for the new titans of industry. They are the aristocratic of iron, and their rise represents the violent, total displacement of the natural world by a new artificial industrial order.
The climax of all this is the Great Flood. But here, it is completely stripped of any morality. In the cold, hard calculus of the Crystal Chancery, the flood is just a necessary logistical purge. It's not a punishment for sin. It's a calculated move to correct a biological error, these Nephilim, that has simply gotten out of control. It is pest control on a planetary scale. So, after all of that, what happens to Enoch himself? Well, the ending is just brilliant. It manages to subvert both the damnation from the original Faust story and the redemption from Goethe's version. It offers us something far, far more unsettling. First, and this is the surprising part, Enoch is saved. He's not damned. And this is in keeping with Goethe's whole philosophy of streben, of striving. His relentless effort is what matters in the end. He never stopped pushing, he never gave up, and he ultimately rejected the empty nihilism that the Watchers offered him. So he makes it. And this is really what makes this ending so different. The original 1587 story ends in damnation. Goethe's ends in a glorious redemption. But this Prussian Faust, it ends in something else entirely, transfiguration. Which leads us to the really crucial question, doesn't it? Okay, so he's saved, but in this cold mechanical universe that we've seen, what does that actually mean? Is this really a reward? Here it is, the final, chilling twist. Enoch's salvation is to be translated. He evolves into Metatron, the very same Chancellor of Heaven we met back in the prologue. The man who wanted to master the machine is, in the end, simply absorbed by it. The relentless striver becomes a perfect, permanent cog in the iron heaven. And that leaves us with this haunting final thought, one that feels just as urgent today as it must have in the 19th century. In our own relentless pursuit of progress, with all our technological solutions and our search for efficiency, where do we draw the line between being the master of the machine and just becoming another part of it?